Game day at Ole Miss. It's an exciting time. It's like Christmas Eve. It's like trying one more sleep to go before Santa Claus arrives to bring you all of your presents. I'm Stephen Willis, the host of the POMcast, right here on the Positively Ole Miss channel. We have a lot of stuff we're going to talk about today. We're going to go over the weather. We're going to look at what needs to be seen. What are the real expectations of a game one? Not prisoner of the moment stuff, not anything like that. What do we realistically expect playing against a top 5 team at home? So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. I'm gonna go over the weather during game time and while you home gate. Again, we have a good show in store for you, but first we're going to take care of a little business. You can follow us on Twitter at the Stephen Willis or at Old Positively. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. You can join our group at Positively Ole Miss on Facebook. Also, we have available the YouTube channel, Positively Ole Miss. Subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. You're always going to be informed with Ole Miss news, and we'll let you know when news breaks, as opposed to you hang around and waiting for news to break. You can follow our Twitch channel as well, Ole Positively, one word as well. We're on a plethora of audio devices as well. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio, SoundCloud. We're waiting on iHeartRadio and Pandora. I don't think those are quite put together yet. We're waiting on the email on that. But once we get going, we're going to be everywhere that you already are. You do not have to go to a second location. We will never ask you for money. It's all free. This information is not mine. This information is everybody's. That's kind of the genesis behind Positively Ole Miss. So, with Florida coming to town and everything in position, everything is a guess at this point. That's what people will not tell you. Everything is a guess. The last time we saw any football was the Egg Bowl. Different staff, different offense, different defense, and a not very good special teams. That was the last time we laid eyes on this group of players, who, by the way, were mostly freshmen. So we're going to look in segment 2 and segment 3 of what should we expect? What is considered a acceptable performance? It's going to be sloppy. No spring practice, no fall camp. It's going to be sloppy. But we can't get lost in the weeds around that and not pay attention to what's really going on. We've got a real growth, week 1 to week 2, week 2 to week 3, that we can look forward to, that we're going to get to see, that is not normally there because spring practice and fall camp, and you got coaches that make decisions off of 40 hours or so more film. It's going to be a process, and prepare yourself for that. Now, every team is going through that. And one of the genius aspects of the SEC going conference only is that every team is on the same footing. You won't have a Big 12 situation where they're going through the week 1 sloppiness, but their opponents are on their second game. They've ironed out some of the kinks, and next thing you know, you lose to Arkansas State. You lose to Louisiana. You almost lose to Houston Baptist. This is a real thing, and the talent gap is not so pronounced that they can just line up and beat you. there's an element of preparation and organization and decision making and game management that goes into things. And if you are behind the curve on that, you're kind of in trouble. So the SEC, everybody starting on equal footing, will lead to more balanced games because both teams are in the exact same position. Just something to look at there. Well, we're going to go to the weather right now. We're going to tell you exactly what it's going to be like. The Oxford Echo Chamber. They're basically weathermen anyway, so they should be telling you this forecast. But I'll do it anyway because you need to know. At 11 a.m. on Saturday in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium for the Florida Gators and the Ole Miss Rebels, Joe Tessitore and Greg McElroy on the call, Marty Smith on the sideline. We are looking at partly cloudy skies with a 5% chance of rain. Wind from the south-southwest at 4 miles an hour and a temperature of 72 degrees. You're like, whoa, that's pretty good, Steve. And it is. It's a fantastic opener. There's a chance for a sun-drenched opener. Now, at the end of the game, we're going to say 3 o'clock because college games go about 4 hours these days. It's going to be 77 degrees, partly cloudy skies, no chance of rain, wind from the south at 6 miles an hour. The game ends a little sooner. Just to put it in perspective, the temperature is slated to be 76. We know that no tailgating is allowed in Oxford this season through governor's decree, but for those going to the game, at 25% capacity of Vaught-Hemingway Stadium, should be between 16 and 18,000 people in the stands. It's going to be a pretty nice day, so really enjoy that. And I just want to say this real quick. We kind of should start football every year at this time. I know we love Labor Day and we have that thing, but we go through all the hurricanes at the beginning of September. But if you just wait a little longer, the weather gets a little bit cooler and the hurricanes dissipate, and all of a sudden you can just play football. And, I mean, kickoff at 72 degrees. I mean, it's fantastic. It's autumn. It's fall. It's just great. Segment 1 on the books. POMcast, Stephen Willis, stick around.
Only 10% of us get enough daily exercise.
And that number is dropping.
Nearly 30% of us are overweight or obese.
We spend 6 hours a day in front of a screen. As a result, we now have a shorter life expectancy than our parents.
But give us the right start in sports, and we'll never stop.
Learn how at active4life.ca.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis from Positively Ole Miss. We're almost done with this break. We'll be back with good information quite soon.
The military has been in every generation of my family, and so has VA. It wasn't easy for my dad after Vietnam, but VA helped him and my mom get the home they'd always wanted. My grandpa's been coming to VA since World War II. They even helped him lay to rest one of his battle buddies from Normandy. And me, I followed in their footsteps and served with pride. And now that I'm out of the military, the GI Bill's helping me with school. Every generation of my family has served, and VA has served us all.
All right, welcome back. The POMcast, Stephen Willis, right here on Positively Ole Miss. I just wish we had some call letters. Like, I just want to say, Positively Ole Miss 102.5 coming at you. Okay. What we're going to talk about in the second segment is what we're looking for of this weekend's game. the kind of the meat and potatoes of what we can expect. Because it's going to be sloppy. There's going to be special teams errors. Now, having Elijah Moore and Jerry Neely back returning kicks, that's pretty fantastic because, like I said, special teams will be sloppy. They are the ones that are going to be practiced the least out of offense and defense. They're going to try and make up their decision-making time on offense and defense with taking away from special teams. Remember, there's only 20 hours in a week they can use. So something has to go, and it's usually special teams. So I expect sloppiness on that side of the ball, and if it comes down to a kick to win at the end, I expect chaos, honestly. So that's just one way you can look at it. Now, if you look at expectations in this one, I'm coming into this one with pretty low expectations, and when I say that, I mean of the sloppiness. They're not going to be as crisp as they normally would be. How could they be? There's been no time to practice. So I want to see the functionality of the offense. Theoretically, it's not going to look like FAU last year in the championship game. It's not even going to look like FAU in 2017. Now, they may be trying to do the same thing, but expect more bust because you're not drilled as much as you normally would be. So I expect a relatively simple game plan. I know that's probably not what people want to hear, but I expect a relatively simple game plan. You want plays that are drilled in that you can do at a high level, not many repetitions. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means last year in Rich Rod's run scheme, they were drilled and drilled and drilled again about running inside zone, outside zone, and a split zone. So I expect the running game to be the bell cow in week one. I expect to see Jerry and Ely and Henry Parrish and Snoop Connor with a heavy roll. Now, ideally, what they're thinking, I believe, because we haven't seen it, is they could put Matt Corral back there to throw the ball and leave the running backs to take up that aspect, because Matt Corral is a good runner. He really is. If it wasn't for John Rice Plumlee, he would be considered one of the best runners we've ever had. He's kind of in that Chad Kelly mold, where it's just surprising that, oh, he can run. If you remember against Arkansas last year, I mean, he ran all over them. Big play after big play. The problem with him is on game day last year, he was kind of allowed to get into his own head. Maybe that was a lack of confidence. Maybe that was a lack of belief in what they were doing. But he freelanced way too much. And in the process of him doing that paralysis by analysis, they had to quit calling flare passes, which are going to be a large part of our offense this year, because Matt Corral started to get a mental block on him, started to kind of Steve Sachs or Chuck Knobloch it. If you look at Arkansas, I mean, that happened on 2 occasions. Throwing a flare pass to his left, that reared his hair. So I'm looking forward to the jump that goes from year 1 to year 2 with him. Now, it's kind of a simple thing, but he needs to complete 100% of his flare passes unless he's throwing it away. He needs to complete 100% of his shuffle passes. Those are gimme routes. Because a large part of the offense, and you will see, is the arrow screen to Kenny Yeboah kind of out in the flat. It's a good play, and it works a lot, and it's something that's just kind of going to be there. So he needs to make those throws 100% of the time. And the same goes for John Rice. 100% of the time. The ball needs to be where it's supposed to be. These are passes at or around the line of scrimmage. and they're an essential part of this offense. You can't stretch the field sideline to sideline and vertically if you can't do the sideline to sideline part. Then you're just throwing the deep ball and we're back to field long go. Which, we really don't want that. You need diversity in your attack. But they obviously like Matt Corral's arm because he can really sling it. And I tell people all the time, and I've been consistent on this podcast, hope we find a quarterback, don't root for a quarterback. It doesn't matter who wins the job. Whoever does is going to be the best candidate. Now, again, we don't have those 40 hours of film. We don't have that spring practice. We don't have that fall camp. So this is kind of a rushed decision. That's the reason there's an or beside the name. Coaches are notoriously slow decision makers. And you can look at it that they're playing roster games, but the reality is they might be playing a little bit of roster games, but if it was 100% sure, it would be 100% sure. If they were 100% confident, it wouldn't matter what the roster looks like, especially not on game week. We're 2 weeks into game preparation at that time. That's the other dirty little secret. They talk like they don't prepare for their first opponent until the first game of the week of the game week. But the reality is the first opponent starts going in about 3 weeks ahead of time. You don't see it. They don't talk about it. But you over-prepare for that first game. They're not going to be able to do that this time. All right, so we've talked about the quarterbacks. Now, in the running back position, I want to see where Jerry and Ely lines up. I want to see how they plan on using him. You're playing Florida, 5th ranked in the AP. It's time to play. It's time to not hold things back. So, where's he lining up? Is he sometimes the jet sweep guy? Do you do that with him when you have Elijah Moore and you have Dennis Jackson? I don't think so, but I want to see what they do with him. I want to see what it looks like with him in the pass game. Same thing goes for Henry Parrish. Same thing goes for Snoop Connor. At wide receiver, I want to see if Jonathan Mingo has truly made that next step that just wasn't there last year. He was, the second or third leading wide receiver with 12 catches or something? So, great prospect. Need to see it. Elijah Moore cannot be the dominant target in the wide receiver game. Just can't. That was one of the faults of our pass game last year, was it was so dominant on Elijah Moore. The other two receivers were basically just blockers. Let's get the ball to Elijah Moore. That's the reason our pass game last year failed. Them trying to force the ball to Elijah Moore. Now, I'm not saying there's something wrong with get the ball to your best players in space and let them work. Not saying that. I'm saying it's a problem when you don't have balance to where other targets need attention as well and you can focus on just one player. That's a problem. Offensive line, Reese McIntyre, Jeremy James, first start. Ben Brown, first start at center. Looking forward to see how that goes. Now, they are very well drilled in zone run blocking. Rich Rod would have seen to that last year, and they had a really good offensive line coach. but I want to see how they pass that. Now, it's set up to where after Royce Newman, who was a basketball player, Eli Acker, who was a basketball player, and if you look at left guard, Nick Broker, a basketball player. Some athletic guys, big guys, 6'4" and above guys playing offensive line. They're young. They are very young. This year, the eligibility clock does not count. So next year is when all of them are going to come back, and there's only going to be one senior if Royce Newman decides to come back. That's going to be available. These are the things that we're looking at more than wins and losses in game one, especially playing a top 5 team. I think I read somewhere this is Kiffin's 3rd straight year playing a top 5 team at the beginning. So he's used to that and he wants that. But we have to look at the game, especially this first one, in a different way because we don't know what to expect. We don't know how it's going to go. We don't even know who they're going to run out there at quarterback. We think it's going to be Matt Corral, but it could be somebody else. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk a little about the defense. Stephen Willis, POMcast. Stick around.
You want to answer that, don't you? I bet it's just killing you seeing the soft glow just inches away. Someone wants to tell you something or ask you something. Oh, come on, answer it already! Just so we're clear, that wasn't my fault. Next time, ignore your inner voice. Don't text and drive. A message from Florida's trusted choice independent insurance agents.
Hey, this is Stephen Willis. I just want you to stick around a little longer. We're going to get back to the podcast right after these messages.
Tonight, nearly 40,000 veterans across the country are homeless. These men and women have pledged to serve our nation, and now we must serve them. Landlords across the country have helped make significant progress in reducing veteran homelessness by making housing available, but there is more that we can do to bring our veterans home. Visit www.va.gov/homeless to see how you can get involved. And if you are a veteran and you are experiencing homelessness, please call 877-4AID-VET. Thank you.
All right. Stephen Willis, POMcast, coming at you for segment 3, the last of the day. We are so happy that you are joining us, but we need to move on to the defensive side of the ball. Sam Williams coming back. It is a mix with Tavius Robinson. Could be dynamic. I'm looking forward to see that pass rush dynamic, along with the star, which right now is slated to be Dalen Gill, and those two players and how they work off each other. Now, you have Momo Sanogo and Lakeith Henry and Jacquez Jones patrolling the middle and KD Hill. So it's basically designed to force you to work on the edges. Remember what I told you. This defense is designed to force you to the playmakers. And the playmakers are inevitably going to be that buck and that star. So I'm kind of excited in this first game to watch Dalen Gill. He is apparently really flashed in fall camp. The coaches did a really good job of keeping a lid on him. And it didn't come out until game week that he was even a thing. He's a junior college player out of Jones County Junior College and Louisville, Mississippi. And yes, I said that correctly, Louisville. So it's something worth seeing. The other thing that I'm interested in is Jacquez Jones is slated to start at Mike over Momo Sanogo. I want to see it. It's one of those things. Now, granted, last year, Jacquez Jones played a lot because Momo got hurt in game 2. Ryder Anderson, a little bit of undersized defensive line, playing the 3 technique or the 5 technique if they're in a 3-man front. It is going to be worth paying attention to. People are going to call him undersized, but Isaac Gross played that position basically at 240 pounds. I'm not overly worried about that. You can counteract that with movements and games and things that you do on the defensive line. His get off is probably going to be better than it was than if somebody was 310. So don't be a prisoner to that number. That's all I'm saying. Defensive back, I want to see Ja'Cory Hawkins. He made that great play that Ole Miss football put out on Twitter where he intercepted the ball in the end zone. I want to see how he does in his first significant playing time at Ole Miss. Now, he's made his debut 2 years ago, and he's played in every game last season. Got a red shirt in 2018, but he did play in 4 games. But I want to see how he holds up. I mean, that's the question. Keydron Smith at corner. He's played a lot of games there. Jalen Jones, the 38 Chucky Mullins Award winner, Courage Award winner. I expect a big year for him. He moved to strong safety. I want to see what he looks like at strong safety. AJ Finley, I want to see what he looks like at free safety. So, it's not overly a thing on defense because by the end of the year, the defense was pretty good. So it just needs to transition. And they've added Dalen Gill and Tavius Robinson. Defensive line, they added Katie Hill. He's a 320-pound nose guard. He's supposed to be a space eater. So I'm looking forward to see him play as well. T. Tisdale, I'm all about. He's a good player. He's another one of those that's going to be like Ryder Anderson, play the 5 technique. He can also play the 3 technique as well. So those are the things I'm looking for. Those are the things that will make the first game a success other than wins and losses. Those are the things that will make this path we're on worth going on. Again, this weekend's going to be fantastic. Enjoy it. Accentuate the positives and ignore the negatives. It's the only way we're going to get through this season. But once again, follow me on Twitter at @TheStephenWillis. That's the account I'll be tweeting on during the game, or at Old Positively. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/POMcast. We have a Facebook group as well. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell at Positively Ole Miss and Positively Ole Miss at Twitch. I hope this, makes that drive up to Oxford a little bit better. This 30-minute bite-sized chunk. You can also go to Around the SEC for more of an in-depth of all games coming up Saturday. So that's about an hour. This is about 30 minutes. So if you're an hour and 30 minutes away, you're good to go. You got everything you need. So that's kind of cool. Anyway, that's the POMcast for Friday. We'll see you Saturday on We've Got Notes. Take care.